study, and play come together on a Windows 11 PC. And for a limited time, college students get the best of both worlds. Get the Unreal College Deal. Everything you need to study and play with select Windows 11 PCs. Eligible students get a year of Microsoft 365 Premium and a year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with a custom color Xbox wireless controller. Learn more at windows.com/student offer. While supplies last. Ends June 30th. Terms at aka.ms/collegepc.
Are your ad campaigns lighting up the dashboard, but not the pipeline? That's bull spend. And marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
My boss asked for results, so I opened my dashboard for the only positive-sounding metric I had. Impressions.
Cut the bull spend. See revenue, not just reach. LinkedIn delivers the highest return on ad spend of major ad networks. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Recording now. Get on with it.
Hello and welcome to episode 339 of the Filmmakers podcast. This is a podcast where we talk filmmaking from indie film to studio films and everything in between. How to get them made, how to make them, and how to try not to
royally F them up.
In our very, very humble opinion, this, ladies and gentlemen, is our new strand on the Filmmakers podcast called The Business of Film Explained, where we go deep into facts, stats, percentages, and figures of filmmaking. On this week's episode, on this month really, because we do the Business of Film once a month, we try to, we talk about how AI is going to affect you filmmakers. We dive deep into the writer's strike. We talk about it, why they're striking, what is happening right now in the world of filmmaking in Hollywood, but how it's affecting everyone in the UK and Europe and beyond. We discuss what the writers are asking for and what the studios are offering in return, and why that's not enough for the writers. We talk about, is there too many shows on TV at the moment? Is there too much choice for us? We chat about Chat GPT. We actually get Chat GPT to ask us some questions. Are those questions any good? Is Chat GPT any good for filmmakers and screenwriters out there? And we also have some questions from our lovely audience, yourselves. Let's introduce our fellow hosts, who are Phil Hawkins. Hello, Phil.
Hello. The resident idiot is back of these podcasts.
For those of you who are new to this one, this is our third Business of Film Explained. I will talk about episodes 1 and 2 in a moment and what we talked about in those. But for now, I want to introduce Phil. He's a writer and producer, but mainly he's a director. He has made the films Butterfly Tattoo, Being Sold, at the last showing, For Warriors, and his amazing fan film Star Wars Origins. And very recently, he released his Universal and Sky Movies movie, Prancer, A Christmas Tale. Phil Hawkins. Hey, buddy.
Hi. Yeah, good to be back.
Also joining us for the first time on the Business of Film Explained. He wasn't available for the first episode, but he is here for the third one. It is the writer and director and producer, Dom Lemoir. Hello, buddy.
Hello. Thanks for my semi-pleasant intro.
I haven't finished it yet. He is.
Oh, okay, keep going.
He has directed 3 films, including Winter Ridge, which stars Ted Lasso's Hannah Waddingham. He has also produced Soundtrack to 16, When the Screaming Starts, I Love My Mum, which we all do, and the upcoming The Unreason. Dom Lemoir.
Hello.
Hello, mate. You all right?
I'm pretty good, yeah.
Good. I like the pauses. And I am Giles Alderson. I'm a director and producer, writer. I've directed The Wolves of War, Arthur and Merlin, The Dare, last year's Stranger in Our Bed, and I produced A Serial Killer's Guide to Life, Followers, Repeat, and very recently 3-Day Millionaire, which is on Netflix right now. But our main attraction, the man you're all here to really listen to, I've already introduced him, it's Dom. No, it is the fantastic Stephen Follows. Stephen, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing very well, thank you. I like the idea that if you say statistics 3 times, I appear. I don't quite know what I don't know what else I was doing. Yeah, exactly. But,
magical spell,
but less interesting. Yeah, I'll take it.
Stephen is a massively established data researcher in the film industry. His work has been featured in places like the New York Times, The Times in the UK, and many, many more. He runs the fabulous website, stephenfollows.com, where you can find pages and pages of filmmaking facts and figures. And I'd really, really highly recommend that you go and have a look. He's also been a producer. He was longlisted for a BAFTA, no less. Produced over 100 short films, 2 features, Baseline and The Grind. And he's the host of the podcast Show Me the Money. Stephen Follows, welcome back for the 3rd installment of The Business of Film Explained.
Yeah.
Wow, that's the kind of enthusiasm we are not going to keep up for the whole episode. But I do like starting high. I think that's the first 10 pages and all that. So let's go with that.
Yes. So, like I say, this is the 3rd part of our new strand called The Business of Film Explained. If you haven't listened to them, do go back and listen. Just type in Business of Film Explained into the filmmakerspodcast.com or into your podcast of choice. It should come up. On the first episode, we talked about, is there a typical route to becoming a film director? Is there a gender equality within directors? And getting your film onto Netflix and the benefit for filmmakers. On the second Business of Film Explained, we talked about, is it a failure or not if you don't make a second film? Is it harder to get a second screenwriter credit within 5 years? Knowing your worth in the film industry and what is financial success. I will probably put a link to those 2 episodes in the show notes anyway, so do listen after you've listened to this. We have a lot of fun on them, and we do more quizzes than on this episode, let's put it that way. But this one we really wanted to get out there because we think it's important with what's happening in the industry right now and how it can and will and is affecting you as filmmakers right now. Okay, let's dive in. With the perfect place to start is the writer's strike. It is happening right now. It is a very important strike. It is happening for, I feel, the right reasons, but I think we should discuss it. I think it's very important. How do we feel about it? Phil, let's start with you.
I was thinking, can we role play? So each of us can play like a writer, a studio, a traditional broadcaster, and a producer. And then we could just, improvise a scene.
Can I be the studio? Because I could do with the money.
Can I be the writer?
Because I'm an audio reconstruction about what's happening on the negotiating table, and you just insert a tumbleweed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, there's definitely no negotiating happening right now. That's for sure. So,
I mean, the thing is, for me, and this obviously, 100% agree with what the writers are doing, and I wonder whether it was worth just talking about the basics of why it's happening and because everyone knows it's happening, but actually, knowing why and some of the reasons behind is a better understanding instead of the kind of, through the grapevine thing. Should we do that? Is that
yes, that makes total sense. Yeah. Do? Why is this happening?
Okay. Here goes. This is me. The first one to answer.
You're in.
Basically, yes, it's about money, right? Of course, It's about money. But essentially, there hasn't been a strike since 2007, and that was pre-streamer days. So you can kind of think about like, wow, I mean, the Netflix, the Amazons, the Apple, the Disney, they weren't even at the table. They were kind of foregone conclusion during, they didn't exist during that strike. So the world has changed, and so has profits and money. So some of these streamers, they've announced like, 39% up. We're talking billions and billions of dollars. Apple, check the notes to get it right. Apple announced quarterly earnings of $20.9 billion. And that's just one of these, mega corporations that now we, are a big provider of entertainment. And the writers, asking for, better pay, and we can go into the in and outs of these things, better pay, the kind of reduction of these, what are called mini rooms. Again, we can get into this later on, better residuals, things like that. But basically it's because they feel that their pay hasn't, I think I read it was adjusted for inflation. Their pay has declined 23% over the past. Oh God, I feel like Stephen Follows all of a sudden. 23%.
Stephen looks angry.
I get to be Phil. That's all right. I don't mind. That's cool.
Over the past 10 years, which obviously, they're going down. profits going up. And even production, the cost of production is going up, and writers feel unfairly, caught in the middle. And basically, they want a look at the kind of minimums that are agreed in this new streaming world. So, without getting into more and more detail, does anyone else want to throw in? Is that in a nutshell?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. As the industry has moved more from traditional television to streaming, the benefits that they've had from TV just haven't translated. So the way that writers' rooms would work in, say, the days of Mad Men or whatever, isn't so much how they're working. And streaming, there's just not the residual base for it. There's just not the plan for, if it does well, what's the high end for writers. And so all these things have just chipped away and made writing harder and harder, less certain, fewer employments, at the same time that, like you said, the streamers are making so much money that there's a certain amount of like intricate detail, and then there's a certain amount of like, this is obscene, because clearly there is money and clearly you're not giving it to us, and all these little things are adding up. And fundamentally the writers do what they always have to do, which is argue and fight for something after it's already become a problem, like they had to do with VHS, like they had to do with DVD in the last strike. And so they're doing it here, and they're doing a really good job. And it's really interesting always to see these strikes, because the studios are the world's best negotiators, and the writers are the world's best storytellers. And so these strikes come down to who can tell the better story or who to win the negotiations. So it's like I don't know. It's not two boxers from the same weight class. It's like two martial artists from different martial arts fighting at the top of their game. The difference being, if the studios win, I don't think anyone will really benefit beyond about 10, 12 people. If the writers win, then huge numbers of people who are not earning very much money win. So it's not hard to pick a favorite in this one.
I think one of the interesting things that was sort of brought up is this idea that writers on these spec shows are given no money and expected to sort of write the pilot, and then the show doesn't happen, which almost is like when you're like a student, filmmaker, and it's like you've got to sort of make something and then see if anyone likes it, and then they might give you a chance with something, and it's or you get hired for a job and they're like, the corporate client won't pay you until you've done it, and then they say, okay, we might buy it afterwards. But you're obviously trained, paying bills, all of these things, and you have the expertise. So I mean that's something very relatable. That is a problem, I think.
Yeah, it is relatable. But basically, they're striking about three things, really, if you boil it down. It is money, it is the writers' rooms, and it is AI. It's a whole new situation, like Stephen has said, that has been around for a while, but suddenly now it's like, if they don't do something now, a lot of writers are they won't be able to afford to live, let alone be a writer full time and have to take other jobs. So they can't take the deal on the table. That is, even though the deal has improved, basically they've come back and said, we will pay you more money. We will do this. But again, it's still not enough. There's not enough there. And that's not sustainable in this business. But maybe you can give us some stats and figures around that, Stephen.
Yeah, I mean, so the WGA estimate that what they're suggesting, their terms, would benefit writers by about $429 million a year collectively. And what the studios are counter offering is only about $86 million a year. So they're quite significantly off. It's 5 times different. And I think that the problem is that this is a fight as old as time. Writers have had to fight incredibly hard for the last 100 years to get almost anything, to get credited, to get paid, to get residuals, get all these things. And so the studios have always been operating in the, we're going to demand a huge amount because we know we're going to have to give in. So there's a certain amount of posturing that we don't know. Like some of the things the studios have countered with are kind of ridiculous when you look at the numbers, but they know this fight's coming. So you don't know how much they really believe that and they think that's reasonable, or how much they're just gearing up. So it's important that the writers hold the line, and maybe, if I don't know what the percentage of our audience are British or not, but we have the Writers Guild of Great Britain, but it's much more of an optional thing than the WGA in America. WGA West and East are pretty much effectively de facto. You have to be a member of the union, and the union is incredibly tough on their rules. So, like, no one will be breaking the strike rules. People are supposed to turn up on pickets. You have to have a medical reason not to. And these, it's really well organized. The committees are really thoughtful, and they have been very clear in their communications and stuff like that. So they're pretty strong and forthright. And the studios have done what they always do, which is to be very, very quiet publicly and to just see how long they can cause pain to the writers by, because these writers are losing money by doing this, and it's risky. And the last one lasted about 100 days, which is
it was a long time.
If you're not paid well and then you lose 100 days, and then you have all this secondary pressure where a lot of shows that went on hiatus during the last writer's strike, loads of crew are not being paid. And whilst those crew, very few of them are actually complaining to the writers, they're still losing money as well. So it ends up being very painful. And it's difficult to know what will happen because the studios last time took a very they got a lot of benefits, fringe benefits from the strike. One of them was that they were able to cancel a load of overall deals and deals they had with actors and whatnot on the studio lot and be like, oh, there's a strike on. And so they saved money there. They invested far more into reality TV. And there is an argument, I mean, this is slightly spurious perhaps, but there is an argument that the last writer's strike caused Donald Trump.
Just caused him.
Well, no, he existed before. Yeah. We've all seen Home Alone 2.
It gave Donald Trump a platform, didn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It gave him The Apprentice because reality TV is covered by a different writers' deal and isn't part of the literary writers we're talking about, the fictional writers. They really doubled down on reality TV, which was a lot cheaper anyway, and that sort of created The Apprentice. Even though the viewing figures are actually falling, I think, but because there wasn't many other shows, it did very well, which created a star. And I don't know, that cause and effect we can argue with for a while, but definitely it changed the landscape of what the studios invested in and what they had permission to do. So there's a certain amount of, maybe this is speculation, but maybe there's an opportunity. Never let a good crisis go to waste.
Well, with that, you mentioned there about our podcast. We've pretty much nearly 50-50, with UK audience and American audience. So this is why this will appeal and why we wanted to do this as well. But I think what is interesting is how it will affect the UK. How what is happening now with this writer strike will affect the UK. In 2007, it was an opportunity for British writers, not on purpose, not people. It just became that way because they needed content. British writers and producers were around going, well, we can go make you some content in the UK. Whereas now what they've done, and Stephen, please correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I can see is they're saying, yeah, but even in Cannes coming up, next week or now, you're not really allowed to pitch to these people. Yeah. You're not allowed to go to Universals and say, hey, we've got a project, and they go, oh, great, we want to look at it. That's called crossing the line, and you can be called a scab.
Yeah, well, I think it's right? difficult because the WGA, sorry, the Writers Guild of Great Britain won't be telling people, and not everyone's a member, but they are strongly saying if you're doing British work with British people in British companies, then that's fine. But you don't need to go to Cannes to do that. And it's such a global industry that it's difficult to. I mean, Netflix have a UK arm, and if you're doing a deal with Netflix UK, maybe that's okay, maybe it's not. But if you're talking on any scale, you are by de facto talking to some degree with the US arm, which is not allowed. So I think if you're making a Sky television show or a BBC show, then you're fine. But if you're doing a co-production that has a US partner in it that is there, then that's not okay, and everyone's expected to, honour the strike. But
the issue is actually finding the separation between where there is a US arm. I mean, I've got a lot of friends in the US, and they're saying, well, sometimes it's second degree, like it's a partner company that works affiliated sometimes with a studio, and they're being sort of put into the line where if they're working with anyone who's a writer outside of the strike, then they will be blacklisted by de facto. So, I mean, you're sort of coming across a very blurry international line that's kind of sweeping across because the studios have such complex and fast-spanning business connections across so many sub-companies across the world.
The Writers Guild of Great Britain actually kind of tried to help that grey area by saying if your contract is written under UK law as a writer, then you're fine. You carry on as normal. If it's under US law, strike rules kind of apply. That's how they've tried to, or how they are defining it. And I think this thing is, there's always everyone's trying to get ahead, right? Everyone's trying to be ambitious. Everyone's trying to, look for these opportunities. And I would say just be very, very, very careful if you are trying to see this as some sort of opportunity to get ahead. Because all you're doing is you may or may not get ahead, but you'll do a heck of a lot of more damage, lay it down the line because the WGA will ban you from joining the union. And, as Stephen says, they're very, very strong in the US, and all the big companies are signatories of the WGA and need to hire WGA writers. So if you want to have any longevity as a writer on big shows, you need to be a member of the WGA to get hired. And if you are taking a gig now just because, or thinking that's an opportunity, just don't. People are fighting for, it's not just about, it's the thing. People think, writers are on big shows, they must get paid loads of money. Everyone's getting loads of money in Hollywood. Everyone's getting loads of money. It's like, it's really not, right? People are struggling to make ends meet. And this whole idea that, writing is becoming more of like a kind of a gig economy, where it's like, come in for a couple of days, write some gags. Okay, bye. Whereas beforehand, traditional shows, they'd write 25 episodes, I don't know, a season, and that's like a year's work for a writer in a writer's room. And now you're getting 8 episodes on a Netflix, with smaller writers and all this stuff. So there's less opportunity, for writers coming in, so probably more experienced writers will take that work, there's less opportunity for people to grow. And then what they're obviously worried about as well, there's less money going back into the pot of pension, healthcare, all these things that actually the WGA is amazing at having, that writers can afford to, obviously we have the NHS, but in the States, that is really, really, really important.
Yeah.
Well, these are things that everyone will benefit from as well. Like if you are going into writing and you're thinking, I'm going to get ahead in this short term, as well as all the things Phil said. The thing is that if you do succeed in getting into writing, it's very, very unlikely that you're not going to interact in the future with the studios or with the WGA or something in America. And these are all, every single benefit. I mean, I would say every single benefit writers have ever had has happened because they've fought for it. Like no one's giving it to them. And as I said, over the last 100 years, this has become entrenched. And so this is the way that writers get anything. And so if we don't support this, you're not even paying dues for it. So to be honest, like everyone should get out their way. We're not paying for this. We're still going to benefit from this because it lifts everybody. And so this is the way that writers get respect, they get treatment, they get anything that they've got right now. And so anything you can do to just not get in the way seems basic to me.
I totally agree. I think basically we want this strike to be over, right? We want the business to carry on and get moving and people to be paid. And that is only fair. So we have to do as filmmakers whatever's possible to help that finish, which is by supporting the writers right now. It really is. And as much as that might upset a few people, as much as that might be really difficult for people going, there's an opportunity for me. Actually, no, because you're ruining it for everyone else and for the future. Because if you're a writer, you might jump in now, but later on, you're going to be screwed. You're not going to be able to afford, to carry on being a writer. You just won't be able to do it because the business is hitting itself at the moment. And these writers are fighting for every job and therefore undercutting. And suddenly you're fighting for the bottom dollar. And that is not good for the business because your best writers just drop off. They go, I'm not doing it anymore. And then the quality of work isn't good enough. That's what I feel. So basically this strike is about survival and we've got support. However we can, even talking about it like this. Do we have any other facts and figures that we could do a quiz on this at this point, Stephen, that we could all guess the answer?
I got so far.
Phil, why are you taking that as a personal attack,
Phil? Why would you not want to do
I wonder
this?
why.
Your name wasn't brought up.
Regular listeners to this segment of the podcast will know that these guys always throw me under the bus. I'm happy to be thrown under the bus.
I don't think we throw you under the bus. I just don't think you know the answers.
And then you come along with little old me with my little brain.
But you've got Dom this time.
Yeah, I don't have a clue what's going on.
Oh, yes.
Cool. If you've listened to the Christmas quiz, Phil normally wins.
Yeah,
and Dom
annoyingly.
doesn't. So
I get competitive.
All right, we can do one though.
No, go on.
All right, here we go. All right,
All right.
This is going to be a fun one.
Great.
I thought I'd say up front because it won't be obvious during. Okay, so what we're going to do here, we're going to compare what the WGA has asked for with what the studios have offered in the latest round of deals.
Okay, all right.
So we'll start with an easy one first. So on foreign streaming residuals. With streaming channels that have fewer than 1 million subscribers, the WGA have suggested a residual base of $6,673. What have the studios countered with, Phil?
We're going to Phil first.
Well, thinking about the percentages of what you said earlier, I'm trying to go back and
he's been clever now.
My very small brain. I would say they've come back with 20% of that. What would that be?
Which is?
So the nearest 100.
1,500 quid. Dollars.
All right, dollars.
Yeah,
dollars. $1,500.
Okay, so you're saying it's even like a quarter of what they're offering.
Yeah,
even
I was
less.
sort of going 20-25%, but you're gone.
Okay.
Oh, fine. All right. Yeah, I can't work
Quick
out my
maths.
percentage.
I don't know.
Dom, what do you reckon?
I'm going to go with $1,900.
Okay, higher. That was higher. $1,900.
That is higher.
All right.
I'm going with 2,500. I think it's a little higher. Maybe even half. 3. I'll go with 3 because I think it's about half.
$1,000.
Oh,
did I win something?
Still gets a point.
Phil.
Congratulations.
No, for the record, Phil was wrong.
Oh,
he was just less wrong than you two.
Yes, correct. Being less wrong is still winning.
Closer to correct.
Okay, if that's not a lesson in the film industry, I don't know what is. Phil was less wrong, so he's a winner?
100%.
That's the film biz for you. So hang on. So we're saying it's a sixth. They've come back and offered a sixth.
No, less than a
of
sixth.
what the Rights Guild of America.
Yeah, less than a sec. But to be fair, like to the studios for a second, is that the studios have got a slightly different way of counting it in the sense that the WGA was saying less than 20 million, and I was asking about less than 1 million.
Hollywood
but,
accounting.
but we can we can compare. We'll do one more. We compare like with like. So let's go the other end of the spectrum for streaming. So we're now talking about platforms that have more than 45 million subscribers. More than 45 million. That is pretty much the big ones that you know, right? Apple and whatever. And so the WGA have said that they want for ones that have between 45 and 75 million to get $13,000. And for more than 75 million subscribers, they want $20,000. Be a single episode, a single payment to the writer. If you've got a big show on Netflix, the foreign payment will be $20,000. What have the studios suggested? Instead of 13 or 20,000, let's say.
Well, which one are we going? Are we doing both?
Well, the studios have combined the two. That's why there's a slight vagary there.
Oh, I
see. So the studios have offered a certain figure, which we are guessing, for a 1 hour episode for any platform that's bigger than 45 million subscribers. Mm-hmm. This is for 1 hour, for one episode, a 1 hour episode for the first year of use.
Right.
So the writers have said 20,000. What have the studios said?
We could do the same sort of maths, right, and try and work it out from there. So it's probably me first. So I'm going to go for around 6,000. Dom, you're next.
4,800.
I respect the specificity.
Yes, I do too. You should put a 20 on the end. Phil?
I'm going to go lower because...
You want to win.
Because you want the points.
Well, no, just because I was trying to think of the logic of it, because that is the majority of streamers and the amount of shows and things. So I'm going to like 3,423.
What was that, Phil?
3,423.
Oh, you remember. Damn. I was hoping that you get your own answer wrong.
To lose a point.
Yeah, exactly. It is 8,000. Oh, so I think Dom was closer.
Yes.
Were you closer, Dom? What did you say?
4,800.
And I said 6,000.
Oh, you're right. You're absolutely right. Okay, fine. Well, sorry, you got a point, but it got taken away.
Standard.
But what's interesting about this is that these sound like large numbers because you think about like, they're offering $8,000 on top of being paid originally. This is only for the first year, and this is only for the foreign payment, so they still get money for other places. But the thing is, this is all the writers going to get, and this is the top end of writers, and it might take an incredibly long time to obviously to get there, but also to actually write the episode. And we also have to remember these streamers make billions, and so these are pennies.
So why? Yeah, exactly, Stephen. Because they make billions. Why are they offering so low? Why the writers are clearly coming back, and the WGA are being fair with these prices. They're not asking for the moon. They're not asking for millions. They're asking for something that's just nowhere near how much something's getting made for, and percentage wise. So why do you think they are bulking?
Well, there's two things. I mean, the number one, they have a fiduciary duty to not waste money. I mean, other than their own salaries.
Sure, but without the writers, there wouldn't be these.
True,
projects.
but they obviously think this is a tactic that is going to work for them overall, because this won't be an accident. They will have thought very carefully about this. They'll strategize. They'll have, experts in their strategy, which we're not party to, and we don't know if this is the main game they're playing. It might be a side game in the sense, like last time, where they I don't have the figures to hand, but my memory is that they across the studios saved maybe over 100 million on overall deals. Certainly, it was a very large scale of thing, and that wasn't part of what the WGA were asking about. In fact, anything, they wouldn't want those things cancelled. But the studios knew, we can use this if it gets to enough of a crisis. So it might well be that this isn't the main game. This is just a side game that they're playing, or it could just be that it's a negotiation tactic and they're just waiting to meet in the middle. It's tricky.
Could it also be that they're concerned that this strike might lead to other factions striking and other guilds, and then it being like a snowball effect where, and then maybe they are thinking several steps ahead at the overall, what it would be if the producers guild strikes, or the directors guild.
Yeah, I mean, certainly that whatever they agree here, if they agree any concession on especially on a new topic like streaming or whatever, then the others will definitely be asking for the same, and that will cost them. I mean, it is a lot of money when you add it up. As I said, the WGA, when you they added up all their proposals, would cost the studios an additional $429 million a year. That's now being real amounts of money for these streamers, but it's still spread across all the streamers, all the shows. So it's
nothing. It's
chump change
across the majors. Like there's probably 8 main players, like you'd say, and then and they're reporting billions, tens and tens of billions of pounds of profit.
Well, where it can be an issue is on the independent side, right? Because that's a lot of the ballpark we play in. Is as independent producers, we know that our budgets are so tight that if we're paying too much in the front end, or the top sheet, as we call them in the budget, it becomes too difficult to make the films. It can do, but I don't know. There's something about this that you're going, well, let's make this fair. Why not? Right, Phil?
Yeah, I mean, I think on the independent side, like, I think you kind of look at the minimums and thing as a guide, because you're not a signatory, so actually you're not putting money into the pension pot and all the stuff.
You're not. That's true in the UK.
So
definitely not.
yeah, so it's a very good guide to know, like, who hasn't gone on the WGA website and gone, oh, if the budget's from this to this, maybe my fee should be this, and then you get 0.5% of that making a feature film in the UK. Another stat for you there, Stephen.
It's a good one. But also in America, they seem to get paid a lot more than the UK anyway. If you ask any first AD, DOP, that world in the TV world in the US, well, that fees are really high, compared to the UK. When you ask those questions, you're like, oh God, you get that much a day.
You do, but the union has fought for that, and
right?
And is trying to maintain a standard, a quality of life for the hundreds and hundreds of writers.
Which the UK government don't care about.
Well, no, God, let's not get started on that. Be whole of the podcast. But I mean, 98% of the union voted for this. I mean, that's like, when have we had an election that's had,
no.
98%? People are unhappy. Like I'm sure I listened to a podcast, something where someone was saying they were collecting their Emmy for a really popular show, and they bought their tux like on credit because they couldn't afford it. And it's just like, wait, hang on. And like, it's this whole idea of like, maybe I'm going off on a tangent, but this idea of the starving artist, what you were saying earlier, I think, Dom, about we write things on spec, we do what we can to kind of make things happen. And, look at my project, look at my pitch deck, look at my everything. We do all that for free. We do all that because we love what we do. And, and I can't help but like think the studios, and the bigger companies might be using that as a way of getting like, well, they're going to do it, aren't they? They're going to do it because they care.
You're right. We do. And we do care. But on that, do they take the risk? Like, being devil's advocate for the other side of it, it's their money. They've earned that money. They've worked hard in a lot of cases to become a global entity, to become something. Netflix certainly have. Universal been to stay around for that amount of time.
No, but it's not their money. If we're going to play that game, it's the subscribers' money. And
sure.
And I was a subscriber, and I want good shows
on streaming services. Sure, but this isn't just streaming, right? I mean, we're talking. This is also studios, which isn't. It's their money. That it's in-house money, and if they spend 200 million on a Heaven's Gate again, they can go bankrupt. I'm not saying that they necessarily deserve the massive amounts that they get. I mean, look, if you can negotiate what you get, then that's up to you. But I'm just being devil's advocate. I think it should be fair, totally, but from their side, right, they're going, well, hang on, you're not taking the risk. I'm taking the risk.
But the problem is like, if you're paying writers less because of inflation and stuff. You're paying writers less, and also, and we can get into the whole mini room debate, and also hiring less writers for a short amount of time, then, you're not feeding back into the pool of talent. So
I agree.
When you go to make shows like this, and obviously we can get into AI, but it's difficult because there's less shows, there's more content, right? But those are written by less people over a shorter amount of time for less money. I'm being broad, general speaking.
You are, but you're right.
And some of these people can't afford to,
to get a tux to the Emmy.
To the Emmy.
Are there too many shows? Dom, look,
I think
there is
massively,
so many
massively.
channels.
I mean, like on streamers, the amount of times and I'm not going to specify, but there are so many shows that come out, and I start watching, and I just think the writing on this is mediocre. Like it's really mediocre. It doesn't have that like thought and attention. The characters are like tropes. They're generic, et cetera, et cetera. And there's so much that you don't know what to watch. Like I would rather have less but good quality. Like I would 100 times rather that.
But is that because exactly what we're talking about? These writers' rooms now are smaller. There is less money given to these writers, and therefore they're going, well, we can't physically write anymore. We can't physically get more info in this show because or talent or whatever, because we've only got two of us.
Yeah, and I think it's also this kind of this feeling like you have to have like a huge quantity of things and variety to hit everyone, rather than actually just thinking like, well, why don't we just make, instead of making 100 shows and 80 of them are shit, why don't we just make, 40 or 50 shows where we've really put the time in, and we've, spent the time on the writers' rooms. We've looked at it as a studio, and we've said, is this show really up to standard? Like, are the characters well written? Is it interesting? Is it original? That's kind of my perspective.
Yes, but and again, I agree. But the other side of that is, if you get commissioned to make something and you only have a certain budget, you are going to go do it because you want. You never know. You've got to write. You've got to work. The more work you do, it breeds more work.
Yeah.
Should we touch on AI?
Yes, we can.
I think it's massive, and I think what we should do is, I think, Phil, this should be your task.
AI
is to ask. I think you should ask AI now,
right?
Chat GBT, a question about. What should we make the question about? Because I think this will be fun.
So the thing about AI is that it's what you put in and what you get out. So a lot of the coverage that's happened with people with a lot of what's happened with the coverage of AI is that people have put in very basic questions, got very basic answers, and said, look, it doesn't work. And to me, it feels like the early days of, like, say, film photography, where if I gave you a roll of film and you sort of held it up to the light, you'd be like, well, this doesn't work. And then you'd scratch it and whatever. And it takes time to learn how it works and how to get the most out of it. And so one of the obviously there's a simple out of the box thing we can do and say, what should we ask about AI? But it would only take a little bit longer, which would get much better answers, would be to copy and paste our four biographies, and then something about the show, and then give a context. And it won't know about the writer's strike, because these things like Chat GPT don't actually have, well, they're starting to have plugins, but they don't have links to do with the modern news and things like that. They have the training data has certain cutoffs and stuff. And then we could ask it something more useful, because it will know our biographies, it will know what's interesting, and making connections is something that these types of large language models, LLMs, are very, very good at, because it can connect, that's contextually relevant to that. It's in the same sort of space. Those words, those ideas connect like this. So yeah, if you just, even if on ChatGPT, which even in out of the box, copy and paste biography, here's the show. We're talking about AI and placing writers. Okay, now ask it to ask us some questions, and you'll probably get better answers.
Great. So we're going to ask AI to ask us some questions. Phil, you up for this challenge?
Yeah. Do I tinker and then it's just happened, or do we talk about something else while I do it?
We'll talk about something else while you're doing that.
Well, I'm going to do exactly what Stephen says, which is a great thing to do, and give me 2 minutes.
It's a very robotic answer.
Do you want to talk about AI and why it's a worry in terms of the strike,
My point on AI, when you look at the technology side of things and where it is, what we've had released, Chat GBT, et cetera, and you look at what the government and some of the developers actually have behind them, often the technology is anything from 6 to 9 months up to like 5 years ahead of what they're actively releasing. So when you're looking at like what Chat GBT and people are looking at AI as in what it is now, it's actually not where AI is. AI is probably a lot further ahead. And then you've got to think about those implications because they're going to come up very soon. And the people that actually have the software and have the capabilities could easily release that way sooner than we think. And suddenly you're making sort of assumptions based on AI that are actually like way behind what it could be doing in terms of script writing, treatments, character development, all those kind of things. So, I mean, I think the idea of looking at it pretty early and pretty soon, that the writers' strike and some of the other sort of bodies are sort of discussing is actually quite valid, because it's not just about what we've seen as a public and what we've been allowed to play with, our toys in the pram. It's actually the stuff that is actually available and how far ahead that is.
I like that.
Starting a business can seem like a daunting task, unless you have a partner like Shopify. They have the tools you need to start and grow your business. From designing a website to marketing to selling and beyond, Shopify can help with everything you need. There's a reason millions of companies like Mattel, Heinz, and Allbirds continue to trust and use them. With Shopify on your side, turn your big business idea into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
This spring, Uber Eats has you covered. Whether you're celebrating mom, dad, or your favorite grad, not all of us are great planners, and with the Uber Eats gift hub, you don't have to be. Send flowers, perfume, champagne, or just their favorite meal straight to their door. Gifts arrive in as little as 25 minutes, and you can add a personalized video message for that additional so-not-last-minute touch. So this spring, get a leg up on gift giving with Uber Eats. Last-minute gifts that land every time. Must be 21 or older to purchase alcohol. Product availability varies per region. See app for details.
This episode is brought to you by Tidy Cats, here to level up your litter game with their new Performance Plus lineup. Your home is your happy place. Your cats, VIPs. So when it comes to the litter box, excellence isn't optional. Choose from products that specialize in max power clumping, low tracking, or odor fighting so advanced, stink won't see it coming. Tidy Cats Performance Plus. Mission mighty, keep it tidy. Shop now at tidycats.com.
I also think that, like anything, like Photoshop, like screenwriting software, you've still got to know how to use it. And the AIs that are around at the moment, it's not easy to use. I've had to go on Midjourney, and they've all got 17 hands and faces peeling off and stuff. It's not easy to use. So it is a skill, like Photoshop. I imagine that some people were annoyed. You look at Jurassic Park, you go back to that, and Phil Tippett and the work that the CGI team were doing opposite him. And Phil Tippett was going, well, that's the end of me. I'll never work again in this kind of industry. It's kind of similar here, but yet people have to learn how to use this. This isn't something where we're all going, oh, I can write a script on it in seconds. That is just not true. But I understand the future is a huge issue, massive issue. Stephen, take it away, please. You know so much about this.
Well, I've been working with AI and screenwriting for over a year now, and that actually is quite a long time. We're coming up, I'm going to Cannes tomorrow, and last year at Cannes, I was going around telling everyone, look, there's all this happening, we've got this deal, this thing is happening, and there was a lot of shrugging and just sort of, isn't that cute? And
everyone ignored you back then, but now they're
now.
Well, I mean, that wasn't my aim, and that's not my point. But so a year is. But Don raised a really, really good point. So these negotiations between the studios and the Writers Guild happen every 3 years, and in the last single year, we've seen such transformative change with AI that they absolutely can't ignore it and snooze it for the next 3 years. This has to be part of it. So where we were last year, so about a year ago, we managed to get a deal with a Hollywood producer at WGA minimums, which is about $36,000, something like that, for a treatment, and the same again for the script with AI. And we had a couple of producers vying for it, and one got it. And what we ended up delivering is actually quite small in like the volume of stuff that Chat GPT could totally do that. I don't think it would do quite as good a job as we did, because we spent the summer building a complex like set of code base that used the AI. But fundamentally, the AIs that are available now are much more powerful and easier out of the box. But I have a friend called Bob Schultz, who runs with Chris Jones, he runs the London Screenwriters Festival. Green. Yeah, exactly. And he does a lot of training and stuff. He's already got 2 deals to write scripts with Chat GPT. And this has already happened. This was like maybe a couple of weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago. So what's happened in 1 year? It's gone from myself as someone who's advanced in the industry, and then a physicist who's my collaborator in Sweden, and being given a relatively large amount of money to do this sort of forward-thinking thing, to now anyone could think they could do it. And I've had about, I don't know, this week I've had about 5 emails from people, I don't know, just who found me, who've emailed me randomly, all effectively asking the same thing. Now, these are all people that are not in the film industry to varying degrees, and they're all asking, is there a piece of software I can buy that will write a screenplay for me? And they're saying, and a few of them said things like, oh, writers are asking for too much money, which I absolutely don't agree. So it's terrifying because I've started to reply to these people. Initially, I was just like, okay, I'm going to pretend this isn't happening. Oh, because the answer is no, it doesn't exist. It will exist. Whether it'll be any good will be slightly down to, as you were suggesting, like how good the software is, how people use it. But the idea that these large language models will get better, and we will all learn how to start using them, is inevitable. And that will definitely happen within the 3-year lifespan of this deal, whoever it is. So the WGA are absolutely right to get on this. And most of what they've said makes a lot of sense. The one thing I object to the way that the WGA, I'll get it out of the way, that the WGA said is that one person on their committee referred to them, the AIs, as plagiarism machines. And they're absolutely not, because plagiarism involves copying things and AIs don't do that. They learn from things. However, everything else they're saying is quite reasonable. So the 2 big things that the WGA have asked for in these negotiations is, one, AIs can't write or rewrite literary material. They can't be the source of content, which is just a position. That's fine. They can have that position. It can't be used as source material, but also that they can't use material. The studios can't use the material writers have written to train future AIs. And that seems like just a reasonable extension of copyright and fair use and all that, as in like what rights you've given up to somebody else. So there's no stat for this, but so the Writers Guild have said, this is a question for you, Phil. Get ready. The Writers Guild have said we should regulate the use of artificial intelligence, but it can be used. It just can't be used as source material, and it can't be, and you can't use our scripts to train future AIs. What were the counter proposals from the studio? What did the studio say in response to that?
They said
Skynet.
They said we're not going to talk about it. Try again later.
Yeah, pretty much. No, Phil's spot on.
Yeah.
He's spot on.
Yeah.
They rejected it, but they did offer annual meetings to discuss advancements in technology.
Yeah.
Annual meetings.
In a year, nothing's going to happen.
Yeah, and also just to discuss it. Like, do they think the
Just
writers are
discuss
idiots? They're like, yeah, you can come along and we'll shoot the shit and we'll chat about it. But the Writers Guild are in a tough position because it will change so much over the time that we've got, and also, you know, they don't know what the studio is going to do. It will affect writers. It will affect writers' rooms. It will be used the way that we're using laptops and spell checks and things like that. And there is a certain amount of that's the way the whole world is going.
This is the problem, though, with the whole world situation. I mean, it expands beyond just the film world, but obviously it's very relevant to the film world. If you regulate, say, in America, what the AI is able to do, and then you're in, I don't know, China or somewhere else, and they haven't regulated it, that country's going to get massively ahead. They're going to develop the technology. Economically, they're going to be advancing at a much quicker rate. So, you know, by regulating in a certain country, if it's not sort of internationally, you could have a problem there.
Yeah, I mean, in general, with AI, absolutely. And I've been talking to some Dutch AI experts who are really struggling because they're not only are they struggling to get source material in Dutch, they also have got GDPR issues, which, for example, China, which has some of the biggest, most powerful models, do not have. But with this particular issue, that's not so much the case because it's the studios. And so you have to actually make them. The actual cost of a script is a relatively small percentage of the overall budget. So even if scripts were now free, it wouldn't make making them easy or distributing them easy, unless they were creating transformatively different works. But really, that's not the case. The real issue that people are going to face with the studios, and to some degree writers are going to face with AI written material, is that, let's say that I'm a big fan of Mork and Mindy and I just want more episodes of Mork and Mindy. I will be able to very soon be able to generate ones that are meaningful and worth watching. And when you pair that with video generation, which is much further behind, but is making that same journey. And we don't know the time frame, but it is inevitable. I will soon, in the technology times, let's say within the next 5 years, 10 years maybe, I will be able to say to something, I want a new episode of Mork and Mindy, and then it will be created and I'll be able to watch it, bypassing all copyright, all controls. Like, it's the ultimate piracy. And there's almost nothing that can be done about that. The things can be used to slow things down and whatever, but fundamentally that is kind of where we're going. And so it does feel a little bit like if you're a writer today or a studio today, you're a black cab or a yellow cab driver, and Uber's come out and Google Maps has come out, and you're like, what can I offer that others don't? And it's getting smaller and smaller. So I don't know if the AI will completely replace writers. There's no reason that we wouldn't hit some sort of natural limit of quality. There's an analogy that people use that we've built very, very tall ladders. We've built ladders that can go all the way to the Empire State Building, but can we build a ladder to the moon? Well, no, we can't, because it's a different type of thing. But we don't know yet because we're still trying. But it seems reasonable to assume that within our lifetimes, AI will be able to generate
to the moon.
Yeah, well, yeah, or at least we'll build different things, because AI is the part of the reason that we've had these big advances in the last year or so is because the breakthroughs in how these models work. Ironically, they actually made the models simpler and that made them more powerful. But it's also training data and general use and things like that. So there's a massive, massive change coming, and anything that they're negotiating this year is a stopgap measure. But what else can they do?
Yeah, you've got to at least fight for something, because I totally agree with you. And I read that the other day, that I could make myself a film with Jennifer Lawrence. I go, I fancy Jennifer Lawrence and Jude Law in a rom-com tonight, and type in what I wanted within that film to make me feel happy in the AI, whatever system I was using.
Totally, yeah.
And then the film would come up for me and I could watch it. But Jennifer Lawrence doesn't get paid, neither does Jude Law.
They're the two biggest victims in this, not the cast and crew or the writer.
They're the victims.
The whole strike.
The whole strike.
Yes, but how's Jennifer Lawrence doing?
Giles is romantic.
Yes. Poor Jennifer Lawrence. She can't afford a tux to go to the Emmys. But let's bring it back to a question. This is kind of what you've answered anyway. We got a few questions on this because we put it out on our Twitter and our socials.
AI's ready, by the way. It was ready like 20 minutes ago, but just
that's how quick it was. Sorry, it's rewritten this whole podcast. It's actually re-recorded it for us. We're just AI now, and we'll come back to that, Phil. That's exciting. Jewel Jessenberger, she asked a question, and we've kind of answered it, but I wanted to talk about this. Do you think eventually there won't be a writer's room because you'll only need AI and a writer or two to work out a storyline and scripts for the whole show?
I think the most important thing to remember about AI is that it's not replacing jobs, it's replacing tasks. And so what a writer was in the past is different to what a writer is today. And so as the role of a writer starts to change and the requirements of writers, if we adapt slowly with it, then the idea that humans will need to create stories from our own lived experience and project them and tell them for others is probably completely safe. But what that looks like today, I mean, if you take an office worker or maybe a photographer, from the early days of photography to 50 years ago to today, changes. Like a photographer who doesn't use Photoshop is a rarity, even if they're not creating fantastical images. And so it will definitely shift massively, but we don't quite know where it will go. But if the models continue the way they are, it will become fairly trivial for it to write mediocre work. Whether it would ever write something stunning and amazing, or at least on cue, I don't know. That's a little bit closer to the idea of what is creativity, what is subversion. And these models are basically just guessing the next most likely word. And from that comes complexity, but they're designed to shoot for the middle. And so in my experience in using them, getting them to write anything good or interesting needs a human to subvert them. But I don't know whether a subversion bot could be built to subvert the other AIs.
But what's the percentage of interesting and lovely content on streamers? How
good a job are humans doing? Yeah, exactly.
It's fascinating.
The ultimate thing is like, all I see is like a copy of Save the Cat behind like a drawbridge, and this whole thing is like, do we open it and upload it to AI, and therefore movies are screwed forever, or not? Or do we save the cat?
Phil, we did that a year ago. As in, that was one of the first books.
All your fault.
The drawbridge with the cat.
It's your fault.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No. One of the first things I did was so when I was working with this physicist and the cosmologist Eliel, he was like, okay, well, we got the deal. We're like, okay, how do we build this machine that only uses AI, doesn't use any human creativity when it comes to like genre or story? He said something almost out loud to himself, like, "Oh, if only there was a system for how movies are structured." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And I gave him a load of books to read, and he read Save the Cat. I think he read it while he was in Cannes. I took him to Cannes last year. And he went around going, "Oh my God, every movie's been ruined for me. I see everything. I see The Matrix now," like an early stage screenwriter. And it was amazing. And it is that kind of stuff AI does incredibly well. And one of the people that we spoke to, I won't mention their name just because I don't know if they want me to or not, but one of the people, because we ended up interviewing, we didn't keep the money. We used the money to interview a load of people in film and AI. And we've created a podcast called Authored by AI. But one of the people we interviewed, I was a bit concerned when I was preparing for the interview, because I said, I'll keep his name off, but he is a writer who writes movies of the week. And he's written 5 or 6 of them, and they're very procedural. So, they have to write them quite quickly, and they're the most formulaic of all the formulaic stuff. And I was concerned because I was thinking, well, his is the job that's the first to go, because he is by definition being hired to write as a formula. And, when I sat down with him and interviewed him, he was one of the most enthusiastic in favor of it, because he was like, great, this can get loads of the crap out of the way for me so I can actually do the bits I like. So the bits that are formulaic aren't fun to write because everybody wants me to fill in this formula. Then I get to write the really interesting things like the dialogue or whatever. And so he was really enthusiastic. And one of the people who was least enthusiastic because of what she writes was Mev Lefauve, who wrote Inside Out and stuff like that. And she talked about the fire, the volcano inside you that creates, the essence of art and stuff like that. So actually the people who I would have thought are most likely to be replaced first are probably the most enthusiastic, and the people who understand logically what they do the least, because they're so connected to the art and to the unknown and to that spark of like what we might call creative genius, are the people who are most fearful of it, because most doubtful that it will replace them, because they understand the complexity of what they're doing is so nuanced and human. And whether that stuff will ever be replaced, I don't know. We've got printers, but we still buy paintings. But I don't know.
Yeah, you've got a good point. We got another comment as well from Kelly Holmes, and she asks, and I like this because it's very topical, when is AI going to fill in funding applications for the BFI?
I hate to tell you this, but this again has already happened last year. Last year
wouldn't surprise me.
I was talking to people last summer scientists who have access to this were starting to use it to do grant applications. And last week I was teaching in Trieste. I was teaching AI ethics, funnily enough, to a load of physicists, and I was chatting with them, and one of them has just been on a panel assessing funding applications. And she said, I am so sick and tired of AI generated applications. And I was like, oh, how can you tell? And she was like, oh, they're all the generic middle ground ones. Like none of them are getting through. And so again, it's lazy use of these things. Yes. But honestly, that's trivial to copy and paste the BFI's mission and what they state as their 5 or 10 year plan, and put it in the AI and say, how can I express what I'm doing? This is my plan. How can I express it in a way that speaks to their plans? Is so trivial, as if you're not doing it, you're not keeping up. But it doesn't fundamentally tell you what to do. It tells you how to express it in the same way that Google Maps doesn't tell you your destination. It tells you the route to your destination. But if you open up Google Maps and go, where should I go? That doesn't make any sense. And so it's the same thing here.
That's interesting. With a couple more comments, and on the back of that, I put into a directors group I'm in, that we were doing this, and any questions, and about that AI comment from Kelly. People came back. I just want to read a couple out. I won't say who they are because they might not want their names mentioned. Someone's put, I was in a meeting today in a production capacity where they said they were going to get Chat GPT to write an outline for a script and then give it to a director producer to finish off and refine. It's happening. Someone else wrote, I was sent a commercial brief last week from an agency that was obviously written by GPT. It's been used, but from what I've seen, not successfully yet, just lazily.
Yeah, but there's 2 things about that. It'll get better, but also people have stopped stop being so lazy. And people have, and a lot of that is just down to the use. Like, as I said, if you ask it a generic question, you get a generic answer. If you give it interesting stuff and interesting perspective, and this is my theory about writers. I think writers are the best place to get the most out of these AIs, because what you need to do is to give it a really informed, interesting prompt and work with it over time. And that's what writers do. That's what writers do in a writer's room. And so it is a very useful tool, but it needs humans at the moment to write interesting things to get it to work.
At the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I've been using Midjourney basically every day for the past 3 weeks on something. So
Midjourney is an image generation one.
It's an image generation thing for, reference and kind of just to kind of even sort of generated some poster art and things like this. Now, of course, that's putting like concept artists kind of out of work for this. But a lot of this was for me as a tool for communication, as opposed to going onto Shot Deck and finding a shot from Blade Runner and going, well, it's not quite Blade Runner, but I like the oranges. It's a tool. It's all a tool.
And technically, you're not putting people out of work because you wouldn't have employed someone to do that necessarily at this stage.
You might have employed like a pitch deck designer or like a website designer, and it's definitely going in that direction. I never would have
personally, because I do that myself. But yes,
and also
overall,
there are jobs within Midjourney and people like that. I mean, one of the things I found it very useful for is I might change the tense. I wrote this in first person. I want it in third person. That's annoying to do, and it can do it as easily as spell check or changing the font size. I wouldn't use it to come up with ideas because it's not good enough. Like it's
you'd be able to take out the Britishisms of scripts or turn into the American. Those kind of things were really cool.
Yes, changing a character name, all those type of things. There are benefits to it. There really are. It's not like it's not the death of anything. It's actually, if you're using it in the right way, very positive. Like anything new. Phil, let's come on to what you asked Chat GPT that we should ask.
Here we go. So I've got some specific questions for you all based on your biographies and about the strike in AI.
Great.
So for Giles Alderson,
that's
given
me.
your experience in writing and directing indie features, how do you envision the role of AI in the screenwriting process and its potential impact? That doesn't even make sense. How do you envision the role of AI in the screenwriting process?
This is the problem.
And its potential impact on storytelling? So it is right. I just didn't read it right.
Oh, I see. Well, luckily for you, Phil, is I've just done a whole podcast on it, on the Filmmakers podcast called The Business of Film 3, where you can get those answers.
Awesome. And
right
then
now.
Inside the question was, do you believe AI-generated scripts can capture the emotional depth and nuance that human-written scripts often possess?
Often possess.
Spicy.
That's a great question. I think the answer there is only if you know how to use it correctly. I think if you're just saying, write to me a script about this, well, no. But I think if used in the right way, potentially, yes. But it's a long road.
For Dom, as a director who has brought compelling narratives to life on screen.
Yes, compelling narratives. Take that, Giles.
No, good for you. But on that, how amazing that Chat GPT has just done that and actually asked reasonable questions. There was nothing wrong with my two questions, right? Dom 1 is clearly a lie.
I'm very excited that Chat GPT...
Compelling narratives for Dom. Compelling narratives in a vertical.
Where did they get this from? It's true, though. It is true.
It did actually write one, and I told it to rewrite and be more favourable to Dom.
Lies.
I didn't. How do you think the use of AI in screenwriting would affect the creative decision-making process? Would it introduce new possibilities or limitations in exploring unique storytelling techniques and themes?
Interesting. Do you want me to answer it, or do I just give a Giles answer and just say it's in the episode? I think it could be interesting for looking at. Say if you're stuck for ideas and you want to sort of create something new, I think it could be interesting for creating new things outside of your comfort zone, like new characters, new arcs, new sort of ideas that might sort of stimulate you, almost like a prompt back to you as a screenwriter. Like, okay, so my script is a bit dull, it needs some more interesting characters. What about if you tried this? Then that sparks a new thought or a new storyline. So I think it could do a lot of that. I think creating scripts itself, to me, I see more of the benefit in treatments and that kind of thing, like sort of maybe giving you a bit of a structure so you can envisage where something might go A to B, and then sort of put in all the personal details yourself. That's kind of my thoughts at the moment.
That's a good answer. Good answer.
Those are those compelling narratives.
Yeah, I just wanted to tell you, actually, I did something today. I used, because we use AI quite a lot in the work I'm doing, but again, not to create new stuff. But one thing I did, which I hadn't occurred to me to do until today, and then everyone who I gave it to was like, oh my God, that's so useful, was that I rewrote a pitch that we're doing for a client. And it was the second draft of the pitch based on loads of notes from internally within my colleagues. And so what I did was when I finished the second draft, I copied and pasted it into Chat GPT with the first draft and said, what are the differences between these two drafts? And it gave, and I didn't tell it the notes that I was working off of, and it was able to say these are the 6 things that are fundamentally different about this pitch, and they reflected the notes all apart from one, which I'd forgotten to do. And I was able to go back to my team and say, here's the second draft. By the way, this is what ChatGPT thinks is a difference between the drafts. And everyone found that really useful as a starting point to assessing what was different, because otherwise some things didn't change. And I found that quite good as a way to test, did I take on those notes? Can I recreate them from the work?
That is super useful. You're right, because as writers, when we're looking to do a rewrite or someone gives us notes, we can miss things, or we go, I don't know how to weave it in, or you forget it. And that is a brilliant way.
Tool.
I love
it's
that.
Not creating, it's not replacing humans. It's
a tool.
You know,
Yes.
same with spell check.
Not yet. Spell check.
Verbatim,
Agreed. It's the same.
For Stephen Follows, by the way, we should go for lunch that time. How is the family? You're looking well today. I mean, AI knows you, Stephen.
Stephen knows you really well. It's a trap. He's got a full relationship going on with someone on AI.
With your expertise in data analysis and industry insights, what are your thoughts on the potential economic and logistical implications of a writer's strike in relation to the use of AI-generated scripts? How might the introduction of AI impact the dynamics of the film industry in terms of cost, production timelines, and overall workflow?
Interesting.
Again, before you answer that, how interesting that ChatGPT asked a really interesting question.
One of the things about these AI models is that I think of them as the really, really good dinner party guests. Because if you don't know about the topic, they sound like they're the genius. When you know about them, you're like, yeah, that sounds good. But actually, what's more interesting in what AI is going to do within this stuff is less within the production cost. As I said, the script is not a big factor of the cost. And it may be useful on set to be able to generate 10 other versions of that line, because I don't want to say that or it doesn't land. But these are quite marginal, small things. The really big thing is that the studio's power is mostly based off of copyright, of intellectual property that they own. And and those things are some of the early ones are expiring anyway, but fundamentally that's where we're going to have to rethink our ideas of what value is. So Disney is fundamentally, they do exciting rides where they'll keep making money because you can't copy that, but then they own stuff you can't do. But when I can do it without anyone's permission, it's a problem. So the economic benefits of AI are marginal within the production, as in it might make it more efficient, might make it cheaper, maybe it'll make it better. I'm not sure. But within the concept overall, it's kind of like what piracy did to the industry. It forced it to create streaming services because it was so easy to steal. And actually, the better the streaming services, the more piracy falls. And piracy has gone back up again now that Netflix is sort of cracking down on passwords, because fundamentally people don't want to steal. They're happy to go for the really good system that's easy to work, that's only £8 a month or whatever. And it's the same thing here. When the studios are treating people well and creating good content, fine. But if they're starting to create crap content, as Dom's saying, and they're not creating the good quality I want, we're just going to sidestep them and use it. So I think it will help a little bit in the short term, but it'll make the job more interesting and maybe better in some ways. But it's the medium to long term where it's going to mess everything up. Look at Black Cab. Look at not just how many Black Cabs there are. How many people are taking the knowledge now? How many new people are learning how to drive a Black Cab? That's the thing that's on the horizon.
Although Dom is out of a job on the podcast. Sorry, Dom, because you're out of a job because I just asked it to come up with puns about the writer's strike. So it's given me stuff like the writer's strike. The writer's strike made it clear that without them, the industry was missing its right hand. Yeah. The writer's strike was like a punctuation mark in the history of filmmaking. It left everyone wondering, where's the right emphasis? Yeah, I've got loads of these. I've got loads of them.
Yeah, it's all the same joke. It's all the same joke. It's not like they're picketing loads of different ones.
Yeah.
Take that AI.
Bye.
He's got his job back. He's got his job back. Well, look on this, because this has been fascinating and really interesting. Maybe we just all sum up how we feel about it, because we've gone through the emotions, even talking about it today, of sort of going, oh, I don't know, I'm on the fence. And then actually when we questioned by Chat GPT, we all kind of went, well, it's useful for this, it's useful for that. So what's our sort of roundup of this and the strike and everything that's happening right now? Phil, we'll start with you.
Well, I mean, I fully support, obviously, what the strike's doing. I think it's opened up a really interesting, creative discussion about the role of AI. I've always been a bit of a nerd, so I'm always interested in these kind of things. But as tools to help my job work more efficiently and hopefully not to replace actual human beings. So I think it's right for them to kind of hold out and really want to. Hit this nail on the head in terms of an agreement to make sure that we're protected going forward as kind of creatives. And I think that's a really important thing I'd like to know going forward.
Tom?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the big things is like, people always go to the negative first and they think, well, AI is going to steal my job. It's going to do this and this. It's like the sort of, I joke about the cliche, but like everyone's sort of talking Terminator and Skynet and, apocalypse. But actually, that might not be the way at all. It might improve humanity, and AI might be a useful source for bettering people. And in the same way with film, actually, maybe AI will learn to help us understand psychology and understand what makes us human in a weird roundabout way. And maybe we will get to those complexities through AI, and maybe it won't be the thing that sort of kills us all or takes all of our jobs, and it'll actually be something that creates meaning and allows us to be more human. I think it's possible. I think it's definitely possible. And I think out of this strike, if there's anything that can improve the quality of the writing and embolden them to write good stories and for those to get to our screens, I think that's the real benefit from this.
Yeah.
And I think it'll benefit the studios, if their focus is on good storytelling as well. And I think it could be at the end of the day that improves their numbers, because really that is what people talk about. It's the tentpole shows, it's the Successions or the Game of Thrones or those kinds of the Stranger Things, etc. It's those really popular, original, interesting shows that make the streamers famous. And that's all down to the writing. It's not all down to the writing, but it's a big part.
We have to embrace it. It is coming. Pretty much it is here. I feel we need to really learn how to use it. We have to learn how to use it to our advantage. I personally don't think it will lose people. I don't think people will lose their jobs. You just have to learn, like with anything, is to get better and make it useful to you. And I really hope this strike ends by the writers getting what they deserve. I really do. Stephen?
I don't know whether I have an optimistic or nihilistic view of this, but I would say that I think we're going to look back at the conversations that we're having now and the world we're in now. Let's say in 10 years from now, we're going to look back at today and it's going to seem unbelievably quaint. Like there's going to be things that we are completely different that we're like, wow, I can't believe we had that. It's and there'll be other things that we'd like, I can't believe we were scared about that. The writer's strike is fundamentally about the next 3 years, because that's how long the deal is, and they can strike again when the weather's hot again. So that's a very short term thing, and they are just fighting for a middle class income. The AI conversation is at the moment interesting and trivial and useful in small places, but we're not existentially scared about what it is today. It's what it will become. And so I think that in 10 years, when we look back to now, there'll be so much that we're not taking on board, not worrying about. And I think...
Or we'll all be dead.
Well, yeah. I mean, it makes me less worried about climate change, because either the AI is going to solve it or kill us.
Well, that's it. It could
climate
help
change is not going to
things,
kill us. Something else will get there first. I don't know. I think that we're about to enter a world of so much change, more change than we've seen in the previous part of our lives, and more than a computer or the internet. The speed of change is going to be so astronomical. In the immediate term, a writer is not going to be replaced by an AI, but a writer might be replaced by a writer with an AI. So it'll be someone else doing the job quicker, faster, better, or more flexible, but it'll still be a writer. So my strong suggestion to everyone, but writers especially, is embrace these tools, start to look at them, start to work out how they can help you offload the things you don't want to do or not very good at, and how you can use them to protect and amplify the things that you are good at, that you do love. And that's probably enough for a 3-year time horizon. Beyond that, I'm not sure. We'll see where humanity ends up. But I think what's nice for me as a fan of sci-fi is I think I'm going to be able to watch the end of humanity. I thought I'd have to just guess what it would be like, but I'm going to get a front row seat. This is exciting.
Yes, it's exciting. And on that note, thank you so much for listening to The Business of Film Explained, our third part. And as you know from the first 2 episodes, we did much more quizzes and dived more into facts and figures. Obviously, we wanted to talk about the strike, what's happening now, why writers are striking, and AI. And I hope you've learned something. And I hope you take something away from this. Remember, go out there and make your films. You can do it. Learn now with these new techniques. Embrace what is coming and get better and learn fast and be the first one waving the flag moving forward. And if you're lucky enough to rise up and do well and end humanity as you need to, then you have to
send the elevator.
It is your duty to send the elevator back down in burning flames.
Yes, there we go, burning flames.
Chat GBT has actually written a new sign-off for you, Charles.
Please
go. Is it better? Are you ready? It's fairly long.
Okay.
Before the doors of the cinematic elevator close, we'd like to extend our deepest appreciation for joining us on the Filmmakers podcast. Just like an elevator ride, our conversations have taken you on a journey exploring the highs and lows, the twists and turns of the film industry. As we reach the final floor of this episode, remember that your filmmaking journey doesn't end here. Embrace every opportunity as if stepping into a new elevator, ready to ascend to greater heights. Keep pushing those buttons of creativity, collaboration, and innovation. So as the doors close, let the lessons of inspiration gained from the Filmmakers podcast propel you forward. Get ready for the next ride, equipped with newfound knowledge and a passion to bring your vision to life. Thank you for being part of our elevator journey. Until our paths cross again, may your filmmaking adventures continue to rise floor after floor as you reach for the stars. Keep elevating, filmmakers.
That was a very elevated pitch.
Wow!
Yay.
Wow! That was amazing.
I think you did it better, Charles.
No, I don't
think you did. I think Charles is out of a job.
Do you know what I think, though, of that? So half of that was brilliant, and then it just went on too long. AI needs to come down a peg or two, literally a floor or two.
Then you can just write it 50% shorter, and it gives it you instantly.
Yeah. And like a broken elevator, it's wrong on every level. Yeah. Until next Tuesday, when we're back for more fun and adventures talking filmmaking. I think we have Rob Marshall and John DeLuca, the brilliant producers and director team of films like Chicago, Pirates of the Caribbean, and the upcoming The Little Mermaid.
If you want to see myself and Giles with mermaid paraphernalia, there's plenty of that coming.
There is plenty of that coming, by the way. So it only leaves me to say thank you very much to Phil Hawkins.
Thank you. Bye.
And thank you very much to Dom Lenoir.
Thank you.
And thank you, as always, to the amazing Stephen Follows.
Thank you so much for having me on. This has been really fun.
This has been really fun. And again, The Business of Film, we're going to do this every month. We've been saying that and we've kind of missed a couple of weeks, but we will now. This has been very successful. Everyone's loved these. So keep your comments coming in. Until next week, till that amazing time, we will see you then, because you're going to make films and you're going to tell us all about it. Chat GBT did it better. But anyway.
waffling like AI.
I can't end it. Right, take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.